Welcome to the third video of the First Time Home Buyer series. This is kind of a long one, but it's also possibly the most important one because this is the one that tells you how to buy a house. This picks up from the last video where we were talking about finding a realtor, finding a lender, and this gets you to buying the house. There's a lot of information in this, but I'm going to talk quickly, hopefully not be too boring for you, and hopefully at the end of this, you'll feel like, hey, I can do this, I know how to buy a house. So again, starting from the last video, you've found a realtor, you found a lender, you need to get pre-qualified. We need to know what the price point is that we're going to be looking at. We don't want to be looking at something that is way out of the range of price points because that's simply a waste of time. So we get pre-qualified. That shouldn't take very long. The lender should be able to do that within a day or two of you providing the information for them. Then we know where we need to be looking. Now we get started by looking at houses. Now you may already have an idea of where you want to be looking or what. I want a house, I want a condo, I want the townhouse. You may already have that in mind, which is great. But at this point, I would say let's broaden the horizons a little bit. If you said, we really like this one little part of town, great. We're going to take a look at everything that's available in that part of town, but let's also look in the surrounding areas around, because a lot of times you don't know necessarily what's out there until you start looking. So we're not at the phase of narrowing down and making a decision necessarily. Here's what I'll tell you, that in the years that I've been doing this, every case is a little bit different. I have had several buyers that have bought the very first place that I've showed them. I don't expect that. That's not necessarily the right way to go, but in each of those cases, the people loved it, and they weren't disappointed that they chose the very first house, so it worked for them. I've also showed 100 houses to people. Doesn't mean that they were more thorough. It just meant that it took them a while to really figure out what they wanted. Everybody is going to be different, but the vast majority of people are somewhere in between. Yeah, probably somewhere in the 10 to 25 houses range, and everybody has their own path. So if you're using me, you'll notice that I never push you to make a decision. If you're using another realtor, you don't want to be feeling pressured into buying the house because I've already shown you 6 houses. When are you going to make a decision? This is the chance for you to be learning about the market. And for every property that we look at that you don't like, we are getting one step closer to finding the one that you do like. So there's no wasted time in this process. This is the step that is the unknown as far as time. It could take a day, it could take a month, it could take 6 months. It just depends on when it is that we find the right place. So we're trying to narrow it down a little bit once we've looked at the different areas and you've had a chance to see what's out there. Then you're like, all right, yeah, we like this part of town, we like this neighborhood, or we like these 3 different neighborhoods. Let's really keep an eye on what comes up in that area. That's my job, is to be able to keep an eye on the market, provide you with the places as they come on the market. The nice thing for you as the consumer is there's so many websites out there that are excellent, that have all the information of inventory, and they're going to be sending you automated notifications. Hey, this house just came on the market. And then we can go take a look at it. That's the neat thing with technology. It helps us both. So we have been looking at places, and now you've fallen in love with a house. How do you know it's the one that you want to write an offer on? Well, it feels differently than the other houses. That's why I say for every house that you don't like, we're one step closer, because when you find the house that you do like, you're comparing it to all the other ones. You're like, hey, this is it. This is the one we want. So at this point, my job is to help you with writing a good offer, writing one that's good for you, that has a chance to be accepted. I'm never going to tell you what the offer should be, but I am going to give you information and we'll talk about it. My job is to be able to counsel you on a good offer. So I'm going to pull up a market analysis. I'm going to see what has sold in the immediate area and in the surrounding areas that is similar to that house in a recent time frame, within the last 6 months to a year. We want to see what the prices are of places that have sold. We want to know what is under contract, what's currently on the market. We probably already know what's currently on the market because we've probably already seen those. But the ones that have sold, we get an idea of, all right, here's a price range on the low end, on the high end. What do we think that the house that you like, where does it fall into that range? And then we also want to know the marketing history of that house. How long has it been on the market? Have they had any price reductions? How long has the seller owned it? What did they buy it for? This is all information I can provide to you. The idea is we want to get a pretty good feel of what's a fair market value in our estimation so that we can write an offer that you feel good about, one that stands a chance of being accepted as well. Every case is a little different. Let's take a house that is, let's take our $100,000 house. It's worth $100,000 and it's priced at $110,000 and we negotiate a price at $105,000. Well, you did get them down $5,000, but you're still paying over the fair market value based on our assessment. You get a house that's valued at $100,000, but they're only asking $95,000 for it. If you offer them full price, you didn't negotiate down at all, but you still got the better deal because in our estimation, it was worth more. So every case is different, and I don't tell people automatically offer 2% under the asking price because that doesn't work. I want you to be able to look at the values and say, yeah, we agree with you, this is the fair market value, and then we go off of that. So we've written the offer, send it over, and the offer is done electronically. I email it over to you, we go through it on the phone, you sign electronically, we don't have to print anything out, there's no late nights at the real estate office working on the offer, it's all very easy. Then I get it over to the listing broker, go through with the listing broker the terms of the offer, why you're an excellent buyer for them to have, and they're lucky to have you. And then we hear back, once they've talked to the seller, then we hear back. It's either been accepted, it's been rejected without any further information, that rarely happens, or we get a counter proposal from them saying, hey, we like everything about the offer, thank you so much for it, but we'd like to make these changes. And so then we see what those changes are, and if those are acceptable to you, then you sign the counter proposal, and we are under contract. If they're not acceptable to you, we make changes. We go back to the seller saying, here's our second offer. Once we get you and the seller together on the same document signed, we have a contract. And now we get to move forward with the contract phase of buying the house. One of the first things we do at this time is we're going to need to provide earnest money for the contract. Earnest money is typically about 1% of the asking price, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, that the sellers and the listing broker has advertised, here's the earnest money amount, the minimum earnest. We can put our own dollar amount on there, but that's generally a pretty good guideline for us. Now, earnest money is not a fee. It is part of your down payment. So if you're going to be bringing $25,000 to the closing as part of your down payment, and they're asking for $5,000, that means you're putting $5,000 up front, bringing $20,000 at the closing. That earnest money is refundable, returnable, as long as the contract is buyer friendly, and there are certain hurdles in the contract that have to be cleared. Otherwise, you have the opportunity to terminate the contract, and if we terminate the contract, that means you get your earnest money back, and the buyer and seller part ways, and you start looking for a new place. But the earnest money typically has to be turned in within the first day or two after the contract gets accepted. A lot of times it goes to the title company, sometimes to the listing broker's office. That earnest money can be a personal check that you write, or it can be wired funds to the title company. Either way, it works fine as long as we get it in by the deadline.